Hi, I'm Clint Allen, the channel creator here on Hard Basis. This is a news and information channel. Now, on this I felt that it's a faceless channel here, but I felt I needed to explain this, okay? There's 3 articles going on here, okay? The first one is just going to be an overview of what is happening with the EPA and the changes overall of what they're going to be doing. And the next 2 articles after that in this video is going to be specifically about DEF and diesel trucks, okay? But what I wanted to point out specifically is that even if the EPA changes and rolls back, whether it's to 2010 or 2000, back to those regulations back then, it does not mean the manufacturer will actually do those changes, okay? Will it make a difference for the companies where you can buy a brand new truck, roll on down to them and have them delete everything out of it? Yes, that is what it is looking at, what it's going to be, and what, they're not going to hold these companies liable, okay? But back to, will the companies themselves, will Dodge, Ford, GM, the big medium duty companies, the heavy duty companies, the industrial companies, will they roll back and stop installing this stuff? That's something that you need to remember, because there are going to be, after the information gets inked, typed out, and signed by the president and by the EPA, that does not mean that they're going to actually change anything, okay? They're going to have board meetings, and they're going to be in that board meeting going, okay, Donald Trump and the EPA rolled back everything for this air quality, and what if in 4 years from now a Democrat gets back in and completely throws it all out the door? There we are again, spending a ton of money to put all this crap back on the vehicles again, and more, especially with the regulations that we're going to be hitting and requirement for 2027 models. So keep that in mind. Just because the EPA is going to change it, the Trump man is going to sign it, doesn't mean it actually is going to stop, all right? So enjoy the rest of the 3 articles here. And of course, the old subscribe, like, share, go piss in the wind, whatever you want to do. But enjoy what I've put together for you, okay?
Well, there is exciting news ahead with these diesel-killing DEF cannons. The EPA will revisit the standards for particulate matter, potentially allowing for more pollution in the air. Yesterday, Environmental Protection Agency, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, announced the agency will undertake 31 historic actions in the greatest and most consequential day of deregulation in U.S. history, mostly aimed at reducing or eliminating regulations regarding air pollution, energy production for coal plants, and DEI. Of these actions, one of the most consequential is rolling back the endangerment finding, a scientific finding by the EPA under the Obama administration that concluded planet-warming greenhouse gases, GHGs, endanger public health and welfare. The endangerment finding is the linchpin that allows GHGs to be regulated under the Federal Clean Air Act, CAA, both for mobile sources like cars, trucks, airplanes, and for stationary sources like power plants. Absent such a finding, the EPA lacks authority to regulate GHGs under the CAA. If the endangerment finding is modified such that it concludes GHGs no longer endanger public health and welfare, then there is no authority under the CAA for regulation of GHGs for power plants, known as Clean Power Plan 2.0, and no authority for methane regulation under Subpart Quado BC of the New Source Performance Standards, NSPS. Air contaminants other than greenhouse gases are also affected, the EPA has indicated they are rolling back mercury and air toxic standards that improperly targeted coal-fired power plants, particulate matter national ambient air quality standards, and multiple national emission standards for hazardous air pollutants for energy and manufacturing sectors. However, this does not mean that the non-greenhouse gas contaminants will no longer be regulated under the Clean Air Act. It merely means the standards that are applicable to those contaminants will be lessened. The rollbacks also affect safety regulation at refineries, specifically the reconsideration of the Biden-Harris administration risk management program rule that made America's oil and natural gas refineries and chemical facilities less safe. Additionally, waste issues at coal-fired electric utility steam generating units are impacted, with a prioritization of the coal ash program to expedite state permit reviews and update coal ash regulations. There is finally a number of actions intended to simplify the burden on the states and tribes themselves to comply with the Clean Air Act. The cumulative effect of these rollbacks will be to 1. Eliminate the authority to regulate greenhouse gases under the Clean Air Act, and 2. Mitigate the regulatory burden on the energy sector by reducing, but not eliminating, recent increases in regulatory limits. Lee Zeldin did come out. They had 30 days to come out with a roadmap of where they were going to be on emissions, and today I was watching Maria Bartiromo on Sunday Morning Futures, and I then saw like several Instagram posts from popular diesel YouTubers and Instagrammers that all said the same thing, that the EPA is going to allow emission deletes. That means you can completely remove a DEF system off a diesel truck. You'll be able to remove catalytic converters off your car. You can remove EGR valves. You can remove all of the crap that causes problems. With engine and maintenance nightmares off of your vehicle and shops, that's the key here. You'll be able to do that without the risk of being persecuted by the government, fined by an agency that has no constitutionality to be able to do so. And it will absolutely change the automotive landscape for those that follow along. What does that mean? Well, what it means is you could go buy a brand new Duramax at GM, a Duramax truck, and immediately take it to a shop and delete the entire DEF system, which means better mileage, better reliability, and fewer issues. This is exciting news. This is absolutely exciting news. If you don't follow Lee Zeldin on social media, I recommend that you do it. He is the new director of the EPA, and it makes me laugh as it looks like we're going to see a revolutionary change in the way not just emissions are handled, but how vehicles are built. And I am extremely excited to see the future of where we're going to be once we don't have to worry about, oh, I got to go buy this stuff at $4 a gallon. I put this liquid crap in my car, which causes issues with the intake and causes issues with this EGR crap and all of that gone. No DPF filters, no nothing. You can delete all of it. And this is huge news. It will be interesting to see. Now, I know you're going to say, well, TK, it's not in stone yet. He has to present this as their guidance on how they're going to move forward. And that's happening. I'm expecting, they have 30 days to do it. Knowing who Lee Zeldin is as a politician, he ran for governor, tried to run for governor in New York and almost won, by the way. It would not surprise me in the least if we see something here in the next 7 to 10 days. So my question to you is this. If you own a diesel truck or a diesel car, are you excited for the ability that you can now just go to a shop? And shops don't have the risk, or they don't have to look over their shoulder to worry about the EPA coming to take everything that they've worked hard for because they wanted to delete emissions off a vehicle. The same emissions that when the United States government orders those trucks or vehicles, lest they don't have them. And before you say, oh no, they don't, everybody has them. I work on military installations, okay? I've seen the F-250S, the F-350S, the Ram 2500s, and 3500S that we have at the Air Force Base at Yermo, on the Marine Annex in San Diego at the Navy Base. And I can tell you this, they're deleted from the factory. This next article is from the Diesel Regulation Roundup. What does EPA's rollback of emission standards mean for trucking? You know, all those Biden-era greenhouse gas standards and Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, mandates regarding emission standards for light and medium-duty vehicles set to take place beginning with model year 2027, or and perhaps closer to the heart of the trucking industry, those looming deadlines for emissions regulations on heavy-duty vehicles. For months, the trucking industry has been formulating a plan to deal with the threatened 2027 model year regulations on emissions and fuel efficiency, with some carriers planning to pre-buy or purchase larger numbers of 2025 and 2026 model year tractors in an effort to reduce purchases of 2027 models. The idea is to let others deal with the technological changes and the increased costs of maintaining them. Another large incentive for pre-buying is the federal requirement to extend the useful life of the vehicles produced addressable with longer vehicle warranties that increase the purchase price by as much as 30%. But wait, not so fast, says the new leadership at EPA, appointed by the Trump administration. On March 12, 2025, EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin announced that the emissions rules mandated under the Biden administration were being reviewed. The action began weeks earlier, however, with a stack of executive orders issued by incoming President Donald Trump on his first day in office. In a story penned for the Wall Street Journal, Zeldin said, "We are driving a dagger through the heart of climate change religion and ushering in America's golden age." He also wrote, "This isn't about abandoning environmental protection. It's about achieving it through innovation and not strangulation." Zeldin's comments come as the EPA works to roll back 31 separate environmental rules put in place under the Biden administration. The regulations include those in place on electric power plants and restrictions on the oil and gas industry, as well as reconsideration of light-duty, medium-duty, and heavy-duty vehicle regulations and NOx standards. A key rollback attempt will address the 2009 finding by then EPA Administrator Lisa Jackson that greenhouse gases in the atmosphere threaten the public health and welfare of current and future generations. The same action included a finding that greenhouse gases from motor vehicles contribute to greenhouse gas pollution. These findings were the basis for a number of EPA actions on the automotive and trucking industries to increase efficiency and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The EPA's greenhouse gas emission standards for heavy-duty vehicles Phase 3. Final rule was published March 29, 2024. It specifies that heavy-duty trucks must achieve a reduction in carbon dioxide emissions, beginning with the 2027 model year for vocational trucks and expanding to sleeper-equipped tractors by 2030. By 2032, the specified reductions are 30% for vocational trucks, 40% for day cab tractors, and 25% for sleeper tractors. Another EPA final rule, control of air pollution from new motor vehicles' heavy-duty engine and vehicle standards, was published on December 20, 2022. New emissions guidelines were announced by the agency that would cut nitrous oxide emissions by 48% by the year 2045. The ruling also included longer useful life requirements that would likely force manufacturers to lengthen warranty periods on new vehicles, driving up the cost by as much as 30%. The GHG rules might be achievable through greater fuel efficiency, and perhaps by smaller diesel engines. The NOx ruling would require redesign of engines and more robust after-treatment systems. One consideration is that after-treatment systems are more effective at higher temperatures. The inevitable bugs. As with any new technology, there are inevitably bugs that must be worked out before full public acceptance is gained. Many in trucking clearly remember the issues around the 2007 model year diesel engines, in which mufflers were replaced with particulate filters. The filters would collect carbon particles from the diesel exhaust, which was then burned off through a regeneration process that used diesel fuel for ignition. The unproven technology was undependable, often leaving drivers on the side of the road with plugged particulate filters that needed replacement to make the truck operational again. Not only did those 2007 model year trucks cost more, they also required more fuel to operate. And then along came DEF. The next phase of EPA regulation of diesel engines took place with the 2010 model year, when selective catalytic reduction, or SCR, was introduced. The population was already familiar with catalytic converters, which had been installed on gasoline-powered automobiles for decades. Now heavy-duty trucks had converters too, with one very large difference. Whereas gasoline converters were passive, they worked without additional additives, SCR converters needed the injection of a chemical to work properly. The industry was introduced to diesel exhaust fluid, a name that sounded suspiciously like the blinker fluid or horn lubricant jokes often heard among motorists. DF was real, however, and drivers became accustomed to having another tank to top off on their trucks. The increased after-treatment required by the EPA's NOx mandate may require heavier use of DF to reach emissions goals, or even the addition of another SCR to each vehicle. Engine oil changes also on the horizon. Another change that is coming to trucking is in the formulation of engine oils. Newer engines will run hotter and they'll have closer tolerances that require a thinner oil. Many trucks currently use oil classified by the Society of American Engineers as CK4. As lubricant requirements changed, backwards compatibility was engineered into each. This meant that CK4 oils will work in engines that were designed back when oils were CJ4 or even CH4. The newer oil category, FA4, may not be compatible with older engines. Whereas older oils might have a viscosity range of 1540 or higher, FA oils are thinner to allow for closer tolerances between engine parts and might be 5W30 or similar. Still up in the air, exactly where the Trump-ordered EPA revisions will end up won't be known for a while. Changes to existing regulations must undergo the usual federal agency rulemaking process with a notice of proposed rulemaking, followed by a period for public comment and a final rule, all published in the Federal Register. It's possible that Congress could pass legislation that shortens the process, but presidential executive orders aren't enough to eliminate the rules already enacted. Whether current efficiency and emissions rules will be delayed or completely scrapped will be revealed in the... Right now, on this great American Hard Basis news and information channel, there is a creator working hard to get your view, even a simple click for a like, loosing hope, begging for your comment, so I know I have touched your life in any way. Here on Hard Basis, we search for the best news and information items you may never see anywhere else. To help you, the viewer, get a laugh or keep informed, even make you think. But I can't reach more folks just like you without your support, so please consider joining for a limited time. Your subscription is free and free for life. You will sleep well every night knowing you reached out and clicked. You will barely be able to sleep waiting for our next video, so won't you today help and subscribe, like, and share? Help me help you. It won't disappoint, and thank you in advance.